I was just spending a little bit of time with my daughter, and she just had a birthday, and I was reminiscing with her about the day she was born, and it made me remember something I've shared with a lot of people that I would love to share with more people because it was such a good experience, and I'm hopeful that our experience might be common to others if they choose to do it. Anyway, so this is like some of the most fun and exciting and impactful advice I could give to soon-to-be parents, specifically if you're not a parent yet at all and this is your first child. And that advice is, don't find out what it's going to be, a boy or a girl. Resist the temptation to find out, and let yourselves be surprised on the day of. Let the man say it's a boy or it's a girl, and I have several reasons why I suggest that, and so don't just listen to me because I said it, but maybe listen to the reasons and see if they're convincing to you and see if it rings true with your own heart. So the first thing I will say is that I had 3 children. I have 3 children, and we did that with all 3. We didn't find out what they were going to be. So I only have that experience. I don't have the other experience of finding out, but every other person I know found out. I don't think I know anyone who basically waited until the day of to find out whether it was going to be a boy or a girl. And so I was an observer of all of those people's experiences, and then of course I had my own experience. So that's kind of what I have to go on. And what I found is that most of the people who found out what the gender was told people, and in many cases they also told the name. Not always, but often. And so it's like, oh, well, we know that our friends, in 5 months or whatever, are going to have a little boy and they're going to name him, John. And what that did is it was kind of like peeking at Christmas presents, where like you don't have the present yet. You have to wait till Christmas morning, but you know what it's going to be and you know what you're going to do with it. And you've even told your friends, for Christmas, I'm getting such and such. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong or sinful or immoral about it or anything like that. I just don't think it's as good. It's not the best choice you can make. And for Michelle and I, there was so much excitement and anticipation. And so just as an example, like when we were in the hospital, and specifically with my daughter Rebecca here in Chattanooga. My son was born in Germany, and my daughter and second son were born here in Chattanooga. We were in the hospital, and the nurses were coming in, and these nurses, like, they see like 10 babies delivered every day or more. And they came in and they said like, oh, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Rojak, we're so excited for your big day, what are we having? And we said like, oh, we don't know. And the nurses flipped out. I mean, it was so beautiful to see. The nurses flipped out. I mean, literally, some of the nurses would like open the door and they'd be like, whatever, Rachel, get over here, listen to this. They don't know what they're having. It's a surprise. And they were just like, they were like little kids, on Christmas morning. And they said like, nobody does that. Everyone knows. And it just takes like the anticipation, like the punch that it just takes it out of it. And so for me as a father, I got to say, hey, I said it in German because my first son was born in Germany. So I said, es ist ein Junge. And then we kept the trend up. So then I said, es ist ein Mädchen, and then es ist ein Junge. And so that was just a little thing between Michelle and I, of course. But to tell your wife, like, it's a boy or it's a girl, like, that was so exciting. And then, we called, as an example, my parents, from Germany, and we said like, hey, it's over, it's here. And my parents are on the phone and they're like, well, what is it? Come on, what is it? And we're like, it's a boy. And there's like cheering and yes, oh, so excited. And what's the name? Come on, what's the name? And, and then we said, okay, we named him Peter James, and oh, I love that name. Oh, I love Peter, It was so exciting. And the same thing was true with my daughter, and the same thing was true with my son, because my daughter was the first granddaughter in the family, and then my third born, Paul, we named him after my uncle who had died, and my parents were at the funeral for my grandmother, the mother of the son who was my uncle who had died, and so like the family was just like, like on pins and needles waiting for the news, and And in contrast to that, we had friends who knew many weeks, many months ahead of time, what they're going to have and what they're going to name it. And like, when you heard the news that the baby was born, I mean, it was like, is it healthy? Yes, it's healthy. Great. Praise God for that. And then it's like, okay, it's like 8 pounds and 20 inches long or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's a big baby or that's a small baby. And it like almost wasn't newsworthy. You know what I mean? I know it sounds rude, but just the contrast was so big. And so as we experienced this, and then in parallel experienced friends and family finding out, and we made these observations, we tried to tell people, like, it is so much stinking fun to not peek at your Christmas presents before they're here. And everybody always said the exact same thing to us. They all said, like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I'm just such a planner. I need to plan. And it was always like, well, what do you need to plan for? And it's basically colors. I mean, when you have a baby, like, you don't put them in dresses right away. Like, you put them in onesies. And I get that. I mean, I've also been a big planner my whole life. But it's like, okay, so like, first of all, people have been having babies for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, maybe millions of years. I don't know. I wasn't around. But it's only in the last like 80 years that you could find out if you are having a boy or a girl. Like, this is basically for civilization, for humankind. It's basically a brand new technology. And I understand that it's exciting, but it's now we act like it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable to do what every other human has done basically forever, since the beginning of time. And they didn't have Amazon. It's like, it's not that hard. Like, it's not that hard to catch up. Like, okay, I mean, there's tons of colors in the rainbow. And if you put your son in pink, it's a little odd. And if you put your baby girl in baby blue, it's a little bit odd. But like, white and yellow and orange and green. I mean, there's so many colors that are pretty neutral. And what we did is we had several, I don't know, maybe a dozen, like, let's say, gender neutral outfits for our baby, our first baby. And then we brought one really cute girl outfit and one really cute boy outfit to the hospital, so we could like bring them home in the color, which of course has changed over the years. I was in Germany and saw that the prince was put into a pink outfit because pink used to be masculine. Anyway, so it is super exciting, and your family will be craving the news. And it's very exciting to share news with people who are extremely excited to hear it. The planning, I mean, come on, paint the nursery white or yellow or stripes, or it's like, it's such a lame counter argument, I think, from a planning perspective. And again, the whole ability to plan is something that you can have that 99.99% of humans have not had. So you can't act as if it's like an absolute necessity. And Amazon makes everything so easy to just buy 100 blue outfits the next day, and they'll be there the next day, that it's just a bad argument. I'll be there in a minute. Anyway, the other thing that I will say, and this is slightly more meaningful, is that not finding out what you're going to have and not planning is a really good introduction to being a parent. Because if being a parent will teach you anything, it's flexibility and patience. Because when you're a married couple, there's quite a lot of parameters in life that you can control and tweak and get just right. And children make that extremely difficult to maintain. You will often be quite satisfied if you get plan C for the day because plan A and B didn't work out. Children introduce a lot of variation, a lot of uncontrollable parameters. And that's what makes being having a family fun and exciting and adventurous. So if you're coming from a controlled, planned environment, all of that variation sounds like, kind of messy and all of that. And to some extent it is. But then once you've learned how to roll with the punches and you've learned how to enjoy plan B or C because plan A didn't work out, you realize like how boring it is to sort of make a reservation and get there 1 minute before the reservation is available and have the exact dinner that you want. Like, kids make life so much fun. And yeah, they get sick, and the variation sometimes causes you to have to cancel plans and stuff like that. But yeah, and so sort of not finding out and having to scramble a little bit at the last second to buy a couple pink outfits or buy a couple blue outfits or whatever, like, that's really not such a bad thing. And also, you might have a lot of family members who are excited to buy you things, and they can buy those things, a day or 2 or 3 or 4 after the baby's born, and you know what the gender is. So yeah, I don't know. I know that many people would see what I'm saying as just a preference, right? Like, some people like, sour, and some people like sweet, or some people like orange and some people like blue. But I think it's more than a preference. I think it's not so far as right and wrong, but I think it's more than a preference in that one way is superior to the other, and one way will set you up already in the mindset of what it'll take to be a good parent, which is rolling with the punches and sort of calling the shots as they come, and not planning so far ahead that everything has to be just right and perfect all the time. And so I would just encourage you that if you're thinking that you want to let yourself be surprised and not plan ahead, I would say go for it. I have never met someone who has told me about how wonderful it was to have planned ahead. I've never heard someone try and convince me or others, like, oh, you really should find out ahead of time. It's really worth it. It's really good. I have only ever seen my wife and I and 1 or 2 other people really try and convince others to let yourself be surprised, as the Germans say. Wir lassen uns überraschen was the phrase. And it's just absolutely so exciting. And then if you are the sort of person who, like me, likes things planned and organized, I mean, I have an Excel document for everything I do in life. I get that, but get ready for parenthood. It's amazing. It's exciting. It's surprising. There's all kinds of variation. And it's a great intro to let yourselves be surprised. And then maybe the last thing I'll just say is think of it like Christmas gifts. Those gifts are yours no matter what. Like, the child you're about to have is going to change your life. And if you do it right, it's going to change your life for the better by like a factor of 1,000. And that baby is yours. That little boy, that little girl, they're yours. Peeking ahead of time, it's not wrong, but it's not the best. So hold out for the best and don't let anyone talk you out of it. That would be my advice to you. So anyway, have a good night, and let yourselves be surprised.